Hey all, Daniel here. We have a great new way for you to reach out to us here at We Watch TV. If you take a look down in the show notes of the podcast, you'll notice a link that says text us a question or comment. The link will open the messaging app on your phone, and from there you can send a text message to us, your favorite variety TV podcast hosts. So if we say something you like or don't like about your favorite show, click that link and educate us on your opinion. We love hearing them, even if they're wrong, and we will make sure to shout you out on our next episode or answer your burning questions. So make sure and check that out down in the show notes. And now, enjoy the episode.
I lost it.
Beautiful clock.
For those of you that don't know, that's my rendition of the Olympics theme song. I can do the graduation theme song better, like do 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 do. I see why Phoebe got the two confused on Friends. But she's like, oh, the Olympics. You know what episode I'm talking about, right?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We Watch TV, the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel. She is Hope. This is episode 77. And yes, we just got done watching the Olympics for 2 weeks.
But you do know the
I know
Friends
which
episode.
Friends episode you're talking about. Yes.
It's an iconic Phoebe quote. Yes, we have been absorbed into the Olympics. I love the Olympics. I like the Winter Olympics too. I'll watch anything, but the Summer Olympics, that's my wheelhouse. Both of us actually ran track and field for several years of our lives, including in college. So it's always really nice to see track get like center stage for people to pay attention to track every 4 years is really nice. Watching swimming is always fun, even though I just get so exhausted watching them, like the long distance like swim races. I'm just like, I get winded like swimming from like the Wilderness Lodge pool from one end to the other, and I have no idea how Katie Ledecky does the 800 swim.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
I'm tired watching her swim.
They're amazing athletes, and what they do is incredible. I don't really care about swimming. Like, it just doesn't connect with me, and maybe it's because I haven't done it, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely connect more to the Olympic sports that I've done, like track and even like gymnastics. But I think like Michael Phelps like really made swimming fun. At least like I know people like remember like Mark Spitz. Like I don't remember that. Like Michael Phelps was like the person that I remember like really putting swimming back on the map.
Right.
So I still like to watch our swimmers. They're always fun. But like track, gymnastics, both the men were really fun to watch this year in gymnastics.
Glasses guy.
Steven. And your friend Steve. Steve. Like, we know our women are baddies. We kind of figured they were going to win gold. But our men have not medaled since Beijing in 2008. And then, of course, Steve, like, pummel horse guy. He ended up being, like, one of my, like, unsung heroes of the Olympics. I love everything about him. He takes those glasses off, and he is nailed in, dialed in, focused. And he's just adorable. He can do like a Rubik's Cube too. He's smart.
You've really like deep dived on this guy, huh?
Yes, I have. That's what happened. That's what I do.
Okay.
That's what I do. So yeah, I love the Summer Olympics. Which one do you like better, summer or winter?
I feel like I like the Summer Olympics just because the track and field events are the ones I like the most. But if I'm for watching events that I have never done before, probably the winter.
You like watching like the crazy like snowboard and like
that's
jumps.
fun. I like to watch curling. Like if you give me if NBC gives me a 2-hour block of curling on a Saturday afternoon,
it's very soothing.
I'll just sit there and just almost fall asleep watching that.
I think track's definitely even though I said, because it wasn't an option, Kaylin, my favorite is definitely to watch track and field for sure. But obviously love gymnastics. Simone Biles definitely solidified her place as the GOAT. I think other than, one little smudge on the Olympics with about Jordan Childs, which she is the rightful bronze medalist in my opinion, you should not punish athletes for your mistakes as judges. And I do believe that we have kind of like filed another thing against that. The proper thing to do would be to go chip another piece away at that Eiffel Tower, hire the blacksmith, whoever makes the medals, and you give the other medal to the Romanians. That's how you solve that. But other than that crap, Jordan Chiles, she is our bronze medalist. Team USA all day, baby. I feel like it was a really great games. Like, I had way more fun watching the Paris Olympics than I did Tokyo.
Yeah, I think part of that too is just the time differential was such that.
And the crowds are back.
The crowds are back.
There was like, you really, it's a big difference when you don't have that crowd support.
Yeah, the crowds are back. And for us watching here on the eastern coast of the U.S., you can watch most of the games live if you're just up, at a reasonable time in the morning and have the ability to have a TV on while you're doing whatever you're doing.
Or you can do what we did for the marathon. And the marathon, both men and women, they kind of capped off the games this past weekend, and both of those aired at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what I did was I DVR'd them, and I believe if you had Peacock, you could have watched it there. And I just kind of tried to stay away from social media so we could watch, because I like to watch the marathon. You will never find a more elite display of just pure athleticism than elite marathoners. Just incredible athletics on display. That's an elite
And
marathoner.
if you have any doubt about that, do what one of the, I think it was Kara Goucher, one of the people commentating the marathon, suggested, which is go to your nearest treadmill, be it at your house or at a gym, and just find out what their pace is and plug that in and try and run that for more than a couple minutes.
I believe the women average pace was a 5:36 mile for most, and that was the women marathoners. Yeah. And for anybody that's like, well, isn't the marathon boring? No. Okay, so the men's race was a little bit less dramatic. Once they kind of thinned out at the end, we kind of knew who was going to be gold, who was going to be silver, who was going to be bronze. But the women, they gave us a show. It came down to like the last 100 meters. If you think about those like really close races in track, that's what they were comparing it to. It gave me cross-country vibes.
Oh, for sure. Especially their
finish shoot.
Especially at the end, those last couple curves coming into the finish line, the two women were jockeying for basically the position, and it came down to not a hairpin turn, but it was a pretty tight corner they were going into, and one of them kind of went in. The one that was on the outside was trying to get into the inside, and she went in hard and gave a little bump, and the other one pushed her back out, and that propelled her to win. And it was very exciting.
Hassan, that all we heard about was her finishing kick. We saw her do it in the track events. She is the second Olympian to do this, the first woman to medal in both the 5,000 and 10,000. She got bronze in those, and then turn right around and go medal in the marathon. And not only did she medal in the marathon, she got gold. And we watched her do the 10,000. We saw it in the 5,000. So she's known for like her finishing kick. She sits patiently. She does that in track. And apparently she does it on the marathon too. So the whole time, like the commentators are talking, we're watching, I have my eye on her. And I'm like, I think she's definitely, like, but when they had a 5K to go, I was like, she's definitely medaling. When it got less than that 5K, they had like 2K, 1K left. I'm like, she's going to win because we've all seen her kick. So what she did is, like, the average person could never do. Like, their times are crazy. And I think she also set an Olympic record. I believe so.
Yes. Well, let me give you. So the women, what'd you say their average mile was?
It was like 5:36.
Okay, that is like
for like the pack.
So
at one point, I don't know what Hassan's.
So to give everybody, I ran in high school and I ran on scholarship at a Division II NCAA school as a distance runner, and a 5:32 mile is like pushing the boundaries of what I was able to do at the best of in shape on a race when all I was doing was 1 mile.
What was your best 5K like ever?
My best 5K ever was 17:25.
That was about what the women.
And that was about what they were running per 5K in this marathon.
And their second 5K was faster than their first 5K.
So like me, the best I ever did, I would have been able to keep up with the women in the marathon for the first 5K of the marathon, and then I would have had to drop.
And so what this winner did, who won that marathon, she literally ran the 10,000 on Friday, then on Sunday had to run that marathon, and she got gold medal. It's crazy. I cannot begin to explain to you like how insane that is. So don't sleep on the marathon, people. Like, especially, like, even if you just tuned in at the end, like, you got a show. Those like that last half hour when you knew how close it was going to be.
Yeah, it was exciting. The men's race wasn't as exciting, but it still went down to like the last 5K before the pack really broke up.
And we got 2 of our Team USA dudes to finish in the top 10.
Yeah, that's really good.
And then Dakota, on the women's side, Team USA, she finished 12th, and that was her first Olympics.
And those are all very young athletes who hopefully are looking forward to multiple Olympics in the future to see if they can improve those finishings in 2028.
American distance running, we are back, baby. Let's see here. Grant Fisher, bronze, 5,000 and the 10,000 on the track. Cole went for gold in the 1,500. I don't remember what the other Team USA guy's name is, but he got bronze in that. The saddest thing for Team USA was that we did set an American, I believe our male runner set an American record in the 800, and he got 4th by like hundredths of a second, which was rough. Yeah, but if you didn't watch the marathon, get in there and watch some clips. And again, I cannot stress enough what Hassan did. Like, I feel like the average person is like, oh, wow, she's really good at running. No, a marathon is hard enough as is, and then to get gold. But what she did running that 5,000 and 10,000 and also getting bronze in those and the times they run, that's insane. The 5,000 and the 10,000 are 2 of the absolute toughest races in track and field.
Take it from somebody who ran both of them in college.
I did. I only ran the 10,000 one time in college, but I did run the 5,000 often.
Often. Like she said, like she's not going to sit here and say that she got runner-up at her conference meet her junior year in the 5K.
I did in college. Thank you for that. Humble brag. I was the 5,000 conference runner-up, and let's just say that my fastest 5,000 time is pretty good. But if you compare it to what those people did in the marathon, they were still about a minute faster than my best 5,000 time.
For their average 5Ks.
For their average 5Ks, yeah.
For the marathon.
For the marathon. So it just shows you how crazy good Olympians are. Now, I can say that I've definitely both of us have ran faster than a 5:36 mile.
Yeah.
My best mile time, though, would have me like laying on the ground after. But yeah, these track events, they're not for the week. Speaking of really, really hard track events, I think the 400 is one of the hardest things that you can do because it's basically the full lap. So it's a sprint, essentially, but it is tough. Both of us have ran the 400 before. We both did the 4x4 often, and our Team USA, men and women, dominated. The women really dominated. Like, we smoked that field. That was incredible.
Yeah, for sure. It was the women for sure were probably the bright spot. There were a couple men, especially like we said in the distance races, that we were really impressed by, but overall the women really shined during this games, because I don't even want to talk about the travesty that is the men's 4x1.
I kind of agree with Carl Lewis.
Absolutely abysmal.
I kind of agree with Carl Lewis, what he was saying. Like, what are you doing? As soon as Noah Lyles was out because he was sick, I can't believe that they would even think to change up their order. We're cursed. We have not medaled in the men's 4x1 since 2004, so it's been 20 years. That's insane. Now, our women, on the other hand, held it down again. The women really, for Team USA, like you said, there were some great standout performances for the men, but our women, I read, like, if you split it, like, how many golds we got, like, our women got, like, over half of that. Like, our women could have beat, like, other countries just for their performances alone. So it was Olympics all about, the ladies. Any other standout performances that you can think about? I know we've talked a lot about track because, we like running. Gymnastics, Simone Biles was awesome. What about breakdancing? That's not returning for LA in 2028.
I wonder why.
Gee, I wonder why. Katie Ledecky, like swimming, great. But I think we would be remiss not to talk about the mascot of the Olympics. That's Snoop Dogg.
Oh, I was sitting here trying to think about like the mascot.
Like, who is the
mascot? I'm sure they had some actual, like, every games has some like plushy mascot that they use, but then you got me with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, he was just so precious. And then him and Martha commenting on the equestrian stuff just was sending me. They were like feeding the horses carrots and everything.
Well, it makes and it made more sense now that we saw the tie-in with how they made the announcement for 2028, which, I mean, we knew it was going to be, but how they kind of handed off to 2028, so it made a lot more sense for him to be around.
I wish I could have watched more surfing. I'll say that. You were mentioning that last night.
I would have liked to have seen that more, but it never was on from what I could tell. So
I think it was, again, those kind of weird, like, for some of the stuff that's not as, fancy, like the marathon, that got that really early time slot, whereas other stuff would be in the afternoon and then they would play the replay in prime time. But if you guys don't like talking about the Olympics, sorry, but not sorry. We love the Olympics in this house.
Well, if they don't like us talking about the Olympics, they've got a 2-year break.
Yeah.
Because the Winter Olympics are
the Winter Olympics are going to be in Italy, I believe. I'll be excited for that. The Olympics are always fun. It's always fun to see people shine in sports that don't necessarily get the spotlight. And it's just, I love, like, obviously we're all about Team USA. I even watched basketball. I forgot to mention that. I never watched the NBA. Suddenly I'm like, okay, I think I'm a Steph Curry fan now because we watched that last game against France. He was awesome. I'm like, I'm so used to watching WVU basketball that I'm like, oh, is this what it's like where people, like, make their shots? Where people, like, maintain a lead? Like, I didn't know it could be this good. And I'm like, should I be, like, a Warriors fan? And I also really liked Steph and LeBron's friendship. That was cute to me. That was precious. I was like, I'm going to sit down and watch this game. You're like, you're going to actually. I was like, yeah, Team USA. I think
since the professional sports city that you generally are you rooting for doesn't have a professional basketball team, that I could allow you to be a Warriors fan. I can't.
Across the country. But
I can't. I'm connected to the Cleveland sports, so I've got to go with the Cavs.
Hey,
unfortunately.
I tried to root for the Cavs. Do you remember that? Like, I tried, and I went first. They disappointed me, like, in the playoffs. Like, this was early on, and I was like, okay, this is just ridiculous. And then when LeBron left and took his talents to Miami the first time, I was like, I can't have another. Like, I'm already have such, like, a terrible relationship, like, with all my other teams, just always disappointing me. I'm like, I can't do it with another one. And then
Says
even
the
when
Steelers
he came back, whatever, a Pirates, WVU. And yes, I realize, you know what? We'll save this for another thing. But I was telling you the other day, I was like, you know what's one of my biggest irritations as a Steelers fan? That I didn't know how good I have it. And who is to blame for that? I blame Tom Brady.
Everybody contact me and let me know if you want Hope to have an episode where she just rants about sports, and I will make it happen.
I might deliver. And aren't they doing football in LA? Flag football.
But I think they're going to let the NFL players play, which will be very interesting to watch.
They should have, like, Tom Brady be like the coach.
They'll just bring him in for quarterback. He probably could still do it.
He could probably still do it. But yeah, it's his fault why I didn't appreciate the Steelers' reign, because I expected greatness and he ruined it. But whatever. Team USA all day, though. It's always great where you can root for all these people and just enjoy the Olympics.
All right. Well, put that out of the way. We do have a fan mail to get to this week before we go any deeper.
Oh.
Yeah, so our last episode that we had, of course, I was talking a lot about the Lord of the Rings and the Rings of Power TV show, and then you just, broke into a Harry Potter, like, fest.
Classic millennial.
Right in the middle of it. And, of course, with the comment we get from a friend in Ohio who just like you, glazed completely over everything I was saying about the Lord of the Rings.
She's a millennial, too.
And went right to Harry Potter, so... Her comment, I am also excited about the Harry Potter show for pretty much the exact same reasons. The movies just weren't quite long enough to include some of the things I liked best from the books. I do think Daniel Radcliffe was pretty perfect, though. And I definitely worry that if they try to make the season too long, that they'll end up adding things, and I know I'll hate that.
Agree on all fronts. If they add stuff that didn't happen in the books, which sometimes the movies would decide to do, still annoyed by that stupid Harry Hermione dance that gave Harry Hermione shippers false hope. Like, even when I've gone back and rewatched that scene, I don't understand how people get romantic vibes from that. It was never going to be them. You all are so wrong on so many levels, but I would hate it if the show would try to make a love triangle that did not exist. Do not do that.
Boring,
that's why I have
boring.
That's why I have the Vampire Diaries. Hey, you know what? We have a lot of millennial listeners that like Harry Potter. Daniel, what's your Harry Potter house?
I'm a Gryffindor.
I'm a Gryffindor too. And people be like, "Oh, why would you say that?" No, I feel like you and I both always do challenge authority. Like when we question stuff, like I'm definitely Hermione in terms of like I could easily go be like a Ravenclaw, but like I question I question the man, so to speak, too much.
I think in your case, you're like, you could fall in, you could teeter into Ravenclaw, but
well,
mostly...
when I did Pottermore, the quizzes, you remember that?
Yeah.
It was so close, but they put me in Gryffindor.
And I think I'm probably similar to that for Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day,
you question things too much.
I question
you don't
things
fall in
too
line.
much. I don't fall in line enough. In fact, I feel anytime I'm like doing a thing and I'm enjoying it, and then all of a sudden a bunch of other people come around and they start like doing the thing and they start getting all culty about it, I suddenly get like ick on it and like have to back away from it. I'm like,
You're like an OG hipster.
Ugh, there's something about this that just feels icky now. So,
do you remember when you wore flannel and drank kombucha before everybody else?
I was wearing flannel for 30 years before.
The kombucha thing, though, that was like, he would never shut up about it. And then
I was done.
I think people are kind of done with that now.
I was done with kombucha before other people were starting to do it. I was like, it's just sour tea.
Give me a crispy Diet Coke or a crispy Baja Blast, because now I am Team Baja Blast. You could probably find me on the podcast a year ago where I was like, I don't get it. Now I do.
Yeah. Okay, well, here we are, 77 episodes in, over a year and a half of podcasting. It is time for us to revisit the very first episode of our podcast where we declared a show that is the best thing going. And so because I know probably we have listeners that haven't listened to every episode, didn't listen to that first episode. The best thing going is what Hope and I consider the best show currently airing on TV. And that is to mean, streaming I guess also counts, and that is to mean it has at least one previous season and has one season confirmed for the future. So we know it's not over.
So shows like Ted Lasso, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Succession, that have had their series finales do not count in this.
That's correct.
Has to be a show currently in the air with another season to come. That first episode, didn't we record that with like cell phones?
Yeah, we just laid my iPhone on the couch and just ranted for like 20 minutes or so. And of course, in that episode, we discussed a lot of different shows that we were thinking about for our best show going, but we ultimately settled on The Boys.
Yes.
This was after season 3 of The Boys had come out, and season 4 was in production. We didn't think it would be this long before we finally got season 4 of The Boys, but here we are. So here, at this point now, we've got The Boys season 4 has finished. The Bear season 3 has finished. Succession is over, so we can't consider it. That would probably be one that would be up there.
Yeah, if they had more Succession going and there was another season planned, there would have been no contest for me. That's how much I liked, L to the OG.
Severance has one season in the books and a second season coming. Star Trek Strange New Worlds left us on that incredible cliffhanger from the end of season 2, and we know season 3 is coming. Only Murders in the Building coming up with their, 4th or 5th season? This month.
I think it's their 4th season, which is crazy because we talked on our previous podcast. We talked about some upcoming shows. Completely forgot to mention that one. I don't think they've promoted it very well.
They hadn't, and really I don't think they had announced that date until after the last time we talked about dates and things like that. So we've got a lot of shows that are sitting in that time area, in that qualifier round right now, where we know they've got another season coming. They've got great seasons in the past. I think in our first episode of the podcast, which is episode 001, The Best Thing Going on TV.
Yes,
if you want
Only
to listen.
Murders, August 27th.
Okay. We talked about what shows that we thought were coming, and then we kind of held it back for what was the best show going. But I think in this case, because of the nature of the decision that we've come to, we're going to go ahead and talk about the best show going right now, which I don't want to hear the boos and I don't want to hear the hisses. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. It's The Bear for you and I. We agreed?
Yeah, which a lot of y'all seem to be sleeping on that listen to this podcast. Go watch The Bear.
Yeah,
maybe some people don't like, because it's dark humor, but it's still really touching. So I wouldn't even say it's like dark humor in the way that The Boys is dark humor. I don't even know how I would describe The Bear the way Mikey described what it was like working at the restaurant in the 3rd episode of the season. He's like, it's chaotic, but you're gonna love it. Like,
yeah, and I understand there's a lot of people who thought that the 3rd season of The Bear was not as good as the 2nd. I loved the 3rd season. I thought it was great. They were in the fridge. They were just trapped in the fridge the whole time. They had a shot at the very. They had multiple times during the show where they showed a shot of Richie standing on one side of the door out in the restaurant, and Carmy was back in the kitchen, and it was trying to tell us they're stuck. They're not going anywhere, because a lot of people I've seen have been like, nothing happened this season, and it's like that was
they're stuck. Like, that's what, like, I kind of disagree with that. It was just showing, like, how at odds they were.
Yeah.
They really drew out some stuff in the 3rd season, but you got to know some more about the characters. But Carmy right now is not really having a lot of growth.
No, he is stuck in the fridge. He's been stuck in that refrigerator the entire season.
All of them.
No, he is stuck, and he's the driver of the show. And so he was stuck in the fridge the entire season, and I'm thinking that hopefully at the end of the season, that was like the push he needed to get out of it. Yeah. Whatever the results, because we got that quick look at his cell phone, and we were and so the show, I think, was trying to point you to, hey, he's reading about what the star rating for the restaurant's going to be. Of course, there was a missed call from Claire down there as well too, which was interesting. Little thing they threw in there right at the end. So I'm excited for it. To me, it's the best thing going on TV right now.
Yeah. I see what you're saying by Carmy being stuck, but I thought you meant I wouldn't consider it everybody being stuck.
No.
Because we did, like, Richie has evolved. His season 2 is where he got to shine. If you had to ask me to rank the season of The Bear, I would still put season 2 as the best. I thought the pacing of season 2 was great, and as a Richie cousin stan, we got to really see him grow and change, and I'm really glad that held for the 3rd season. I would have been mad if he had kind of backpedaled a little bit. He still, even when Carmy was kind of giving him crap, he stayed kind of like, and like, yeah, they still had their tiffs and like yelled at each other, but Richie did not revert back, even with the stuff going on with his ex-wife remarrying, him meeting Josh Hartnett, who randomly played the stepdad. What a year for Josh Hartnett coming back into our lives. Teen Hope loved him. Just gotta say, loved Josh Hartnett. Bravo. Round of applause for Josh Hartnett randomly showing up in The Bear. But I was really glad to see that. And I thought the episode Napkins were, like, we think we talked about that if you go back and listen to our Yes Chef, again.
Yeah, I was about to look that up. That's episode 73, published on July 2nd. So if you're interested to hear our thoughts on the full season of The Bear season 3, you can go check that out.
Absolutely. That was a great episode. And that episode, again, we've always talked about Carmy's brother Mike, how they all loved him so much and why they're all so loyal to him. You really got to see it from that. And then also, telling, and in particular, it told a lot about Tina's story. And we've kind of seen her, go through the motions. Like, she wasn't the nicest in season 1. She was kind of not receptive to changes. But then you get to see why she was so loyal to that restaurant. And we've kind of got to see how she's wanting to change. And she's kind of reverting back to how she was in that flashback episode where she was eager to learn, eager to keep working, and all of that stuff. And it also kind of made sense why she was so resistant to change, with how she had trouble finding more work after she had been let go of her previous job. And then the episode with Jamie Lee Curtis, you're not going to bring her in and not have a fantastic episode.
Correct.
Where Carmy's sister is giving birth. That was just another great one. I think I saw, like, somebody said on, I'm never going to call it X, so I'm just going to say Twitter. They're like, women's stories are important. Yes. So we got to see, if I had to watch just Carmy mope around every single episode and only be the focus, I think it would make for a very boring series. So I think the fact that we're getting to see other characters and how they relate to him is really good. I think what some of the fans get a little caught up in is shipping. You're not really going to get that so much on this show. And a lot of people ship Carmy and Sid. I'm not sure that's ever going to happen for them. And by the way, I always thought that Sid was younger than Carmy. Supposedly she's like supposed to be older than him, and that's one of the reasons why she's so in awe of her talent. Maybe just because that actress looks young to me.
Maybe.
Did you know that? I always thought she was like young, or they were the same age. Now, Sid and the guy that Carmy worked with, that chef, Will Poulter, who got the guy from the
We're the Millers.
Yeah, We're the Millers, and then suddenly got like super hot. Well done, Society. I would ship those two for like the two little interactions they had, but I don't think that's like the point of the show. I think people assumed male lead, female lead, just like the incorrect Harry Hermione shippers do, that the male lead and the female lead must be together. Now, that being said, if they write it organically and down the road and they would be together, I think I'd be okay with that. I also think that people are kind of giving Sid's character a pass in The Bear, where Sid's not communicating her feelings properly, and not feelings about romantic, feelings about the restaurant. She's not communicating it properly to Carmy, and a lot of that's on her. She needs to use her voice.
Sometimes being quiet just to keep the peace is the wrong thing to do.
Exactly.
And
she's not, and then like we end season 3 with her possibly entertaining another job, and I'm like, yeah, he's gonna have a right to feel blindsided about that, because she's been putting off like signing the document to be like the actual, make it legal that she's the owner, and she hasn't really been communicating a lot of things, and I think she's nervous the way he's acting, and some of that is on her, not just on him, and I don't think it's right that fans would only blame Carmy. So that's like my little soapbox about that. But yeah, while I like season 2 the best, I thought season 3 was good. It definitely wasn't as fast paced, you could say, as the second season, but I don't think it was slow either. Now, I'm not sure if I would have felt the same way if it was a weekly release. What about you? Like, if that premiere episode, which was good, artistically done, but if we had only been able to watch that and I had to wait a week, I would have been a little annoyed. I will give that to people. Like, if you weren't watching it in a binge format like we did in the weekend, and it actually I would have had to wait a week between episodes, I think it might change my opinion a little bit of season 3.
It's an interesting it's an interesting concept to have the discussion of when you're creating a television show. Are you creating it with the foreknowledge that it's going to be weekly release versus bingeable, and does that inform how you make the call on certain episodes and how they're formatted or not? And I really don't know. That's an interesting conversation, because one, I don't even know how much they really take that into account one way or the other.
I don't know either.
But I agree with you. While as much as I loved the first episode of season 3 and hailed it in our conversation, it would have been really tough if we couldn't have then just jumped right into episode 2. Yeah. So.
Because we got season 2 in the binge format. Season 1, I believe that while we binged it, we caught up right in time for the finale. They did have the weekly release. I feel like season 3 almost flows better, almost like a long movie, like the way each episode goes. And I think like you're going to see a lot more when we get to season 4 of the reviews, how that's impacting the restaurant, their financial side. So yeah, like, as you said, Carmy's character was stuck in the fridge. She was the only one that didn't get development. Other people, we got to learn more about why we're caring so much about these other characters in the pieces. And as somebody who likes to, learn about characters, that's what I really enjoyed. And I don't think other characters were stuck necessarily. You could be like, well, the restaurant was. Well, yes, because it moved, like, less time has passed by, I feel like. And the people, like, I did think some people complained about the facts. I liked them.
There were definitely some complaints about adding more facts in, and I say
they're just being
coming.
Haunted.
Keep them coming.
It's a haunt. It's a haunt.
So. All right. Well, congratulations to The Bear for taking the title of the best show going from the boys. It gets to hold that mantle until at least next summer, we assume, is when season 4. And honestly, it may retire as the reigning chief, because I have a feeling season 4 is going to be it.
Yeah, The Bear is definitely one of those shows that I think has kind of a timestamp on it. You don't want to draw it out too, because if you do, then you will get more of these long, drawn-out seasons that might not be as artistically good, and maybe they're not going to tell as many stories, and then you're like, oh, well, now they're intentionally holding it, which is what I'll say, what the next show that we're going to talk about and why they've fallen in my rankings a little bit, is you don't want to get to a place where you're just drawing it out too much to get more content. So I think if they can wrap it up in season 4, and a lot of those actors, like the woman that plays Sydney, like, she's blowing up right now, doing so many things. So I don't know how contracts work or what they're going to do. But I think The Bear definitely deserves its spot. It was one of the ones I was most excited for. And you know what? I'm going to say part of the reason is that I don't have to wait as long between seasons. That helps.
Valid.
That helps. That if I have like my Olympic judging scorecard, that's one of the columns. I also like it that I can watch it all at once, that I don't have to suffer through the weekly release, because that's what streaming originally was all about, and I feel like we've gone back. And you know what? We've gone back, but we're not having other rewards from it. Like, we used to get 22, 24 episode seasons, and then we'd only have to wait from like the end of May to like middle September. Like, we had it great back then. And now you want to give me 8 episodes, do a weekly release, and you're making me wait like 2 years, sometimes 3 years in between. Get out of here. So that's another reason why the Bear gets my up there spot. And you had mentioned Severance as a show we could possibly consider because it has a season 2 along the way. I'm going to be really interested to see how we do rate season 2, because we watched Severance in a binge format. We're going to have to watch it on a weekly release. And I feel like the second season is always important for a show. And that's another reason why The Bear impressed me so much, is because I think their second season is the best season. And sometimes that second season can be kind of wonky. And a lot of times shows will rebound with a season 3. So I'll be very interested to see when Severance is all said and done, if we connect to it the same. I hope we do. I've heard that there's been some like tension amongst writers, and like, I don't know, there was a lot of back end tension amongst the show, like even during season 1 and then after, with some different stuff going on. You'd have to look it up and Google it. And I'll be interested to see like how it goes. All these different factors.
It didn't show through in the quality of the show.
So if you guys want to really, and you guys, by you guys, I mean writers, production studios, you want to give me something good that I'm going to talk about, let me binge it.
If you'd like to be in consideration to have a sticker that says, "We watch TV's best thing going," consider letting us binge watch it. I don't think the writers have any say in whether it's binged, by the way.
No, I don't
I think
they
it's
do.
all
I think
it's all the streaming studios. So,
and that terrible split season, hate that. Even at least Netflix will give it to me all at once, but then you're just like, oh yeah, you're giving me 4 episodes. Woohoo!
Well, so real quick before we get to our runners up, I think we have to lament that The Boys did not fall out of contention for the best thing going because it ended. It fell out of contention because it was replaced by The Bear. So
Yes.
Shall we say anything about The Boys?
I think The Boys made a strong last little punch. They were like the people that kick it in the last 100 meters, going back to the Olympics, and sprint and try to get into that position to get that gold, but still just fall short and get in the silver, which silver, bronze, still great. You medaled at the Olympics. So The Boys, for me, did come close. I kind of figured after we watched The Bear season 3 that it was going to be like the rightful champ. It had been so long since I'd seen The Boys. I'm like, how is The Boys going to top this? Because I've had 3 great seasons of The Bear. The Boys did what I talked about, what I don't want The Bear to do. They're drawing it out a little too much for me, and then they're making me wait a really long time between seasons. And then I think they always give us like the first couple episodes at once, but then I have to do the weekly release. And this past season of The Boys, each episode we watched, I was entertained. It was great. There were some episodes I had some problems with, like the Huey essay episode. That wasn't really funny. I know The Boys is supposed to be shock value. I said my piece on that. They went in a little bit too much, and it just really wasn't funny. It missed the mark. But I felt like so much of this season's storylines were separated amongst the groups. And yes, that it all come together well in the end, and I'm going to talk about that. But for me, it felt like we're stalling. The Boys we were in a stall pattern, and not in a way of like metaphorically Carmi stuck in the fridge, just like, oh, we know we have another season, one more season, we got to kind of draw it out, we can't really get rid of the big bad yet, we got to kind of separate, we got to make some tension. But The Boys did make up for it with one heck of a finale. That was a great finale. It hit a lot of the storylines where they did have the group separated, all kind of came together, sort of, really made sense. I just wish that they had done that a little sooner than what they did. And it really showed me like, oh, with that finale, this is why we like The Boys so much. So their finale came out, tried to make that last minute case. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, for me, that is exactly it. The finale was great, but it wasn't enough. The rest of the season was probably, I would say, the weakest of the 4 seasons of The Boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And It could have, honestly, a lot of the stories that they were telling in there was stretch. Probably the main stories that they needed to tell here could have been done compressed into a couple episodes instead of a season. And I think knowing now what we know, which is season 5 of The Boys will be the final season of The Boys.
It was a stall pattern.
They probably could have made season 4 the final season of The Boys and wrapped it up in a satisfactory manner. And they chose to add another season on. I fully expect season 5 to be awesome. I think especially the things they've led up to it, like they're ready to go, and it's going to be an exciting season. If we just have to wait until 2026.
Do we know for sure? It's
yeah,
be
that's when they said.
Ridiculous. Come on, people. You know it's the last season. Get to it. So.
I'm getting grayer and grayer by the day here, folks.
And I had to ruminate on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I'll say that. Like, that finale was so good, but then after, the next day, I'm like, okay, it's not good enough that it's going to overtake that spot. And even if The Boys comes out with a banger season 5, it won't be in contention for the best thing going anyway because it'll be done.
It'll be ending. So
that last episode though was Chef's Kiss. It reminded me why I like The Boys.
It was very good.
And why it came close. It just wasn't enough.
Alrighty. So all of that said, we've crowned the bear. We've lamented The Boys. What's your top? Like, let's take the bear out now, put it on the side. What are the 2 or 3 things that you were that were up there for you when you were thinking about it?
And we're still taking The Boys out since
we already talked about The Boys. Yeah.
For me, I think you and I think of this differently. I try to think of shows that I feel like everyone could like, and I know you're gonna do a very like niche show that I do think a lot of people could like, but people are gonna be like, when Daniel's like, really? I don't know. What did I say last year? I think I said Only Murders last year.
Only Murders was up there for you last year, and I can't remember the other one.
I can't remember it either. It was probably Maisel, but Maisel has
since ended. Yeah.
So a lot of the shows that I really like, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Ted Lasso, are done. Succession is done. Like I just said about Severance, I got to see what season 2 does, how I'm impacted by the weekly release, if it still hits. Like, that's a show I could definitely see being in there as my 2 slot, but I'm not ready to give it that second place shot because I need to see more. So I'm not really ready to market there. You'd ask me if I was going to pick Bridgerton. No. Have I watched Bridgerton season 3 like 50 times already? Yes, of course. But I watch Bridgerton because it's like a comfort to me. I read the books. I like it. I like that it's like a period piece, but still like with a Gossip Girl vibe. But when it comes to just like a really great show, no, I'm not. And they kind of made me mad with some of the stuff they did in season 3. But like that's always going to be a really fun show that I always look like really forward to. But I'm not going to say it's my best thing going, even though I can't wait for it. But yeah, guess what? They're going to make me wait like 2 years for that as well.
Ridiculous.
I would probably, even though season 3 of Only Murders kind of had a little bit of a, like they had the trio separated longer than I liked, that back half of that season, and I think if you went back and you heard us talk about on the pod, I think we have a supercut of Only Murders, don't we?
We should.
That we did, that if you want to go check all our thoughts on season 3, you might be like, oh, this season's not as good as the other ones. It came back, reminded me why I love that show so much. I think those 3 actors, Selena Gomez, Steve Martin, Martin Short, their chemistry is unmatched. They are funny. I cannot wait for more Only Murders. That's a show where I'm like, you know what, just keep making them. Just keep finding a way to get these 3 together and have shenanigans. I don't care what you have to do. Just keep doing it, and I'm going to be cool with it. I hope that they don't have where they're, and they probably are, because I think they were all kind of going off to LA at the end of season 3, so they'll have to find a way to come back. I don't really remember how did it end?
It ended with the character played by what's her Sue Sylvester? What's that?
Oh yeah, Sue Sylvester. She's like Steve Martin's character,
Steve
stunt
Martin's
double.
Stunt double, and
Sass.
Sass, and it ended with her character being shot in his apartment, assuming that somebody was trying to actually take out his character. And to me, I am very excited for season 4.
Same.
I think this twist of what they're doing for the murder this season is much more compelling than what we thought for season 3.
We thought at the end of season 3 before that happened, because they're all having reasons to go to California. We're like,
Right.
oh, maybe they're going to shift the show and do it on the West Coast, which I would have been fine with. But then they made it so it's still in the building
Right.
since she got murdered there. So I feel like I have to give that my 2 slot. Like, even if I start off this season 4 and you guys hear me in a couple weeks after it airs and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm feeling it as much, I'm sure that they'll find a way to make me eat my words. So that's got to be up there for me. I know what you're going to say. I like Strange New Worlds. Spoil it for Daniel. Daniel's going to talk about Strange New Worlds. But I don't
sounds
know.
like I don't need to talk at all. I'll just sit back.
I don't know if I would put it in my 2 slot, even though I really enjoy it. And I think if any of you guys are ever going to take Daniel's advice to watch Star Trek, that's the one you need. Just don't start off with Picard. Don't start off with the old one because you'll be like, this is so cringe. Start off with Strange New Worlds and see if you can get into that environment. You don't have to have background from any of the other shows to watch that one. But that being said, I don't think I like it as much as you do, even though I do really enjoy it. So by default, I'm gonna have to put Only Murders. Is there a show that I'm missing that I've been watching? Like, I wouldn't even. It's been so long since I've seen Stranger Things, and again, those kids are gonna be like in their 40s before I finally get Stranger Things back, and it's again gonna be in its final season. So while I love Stranger Things, I don't think I can put that there for me. I really like Emily in Paris that's coming up. But again, Emily in Paris I'd equate to like a Bridgerton level when I think about it. So I got to go with Only Murders then.
I think of all the shows you just named, I am most excited for Only Murders season 4, but it does not crack into my top 2 to 3 after The Bear and The Boys. I think probably since the last time we had this discussion, my opinion has moved a little bit, because I've thought about it, and you know how I am about ranking things. I don't like doing it anyways. It was between 2, and I've probably decided on the spot right now that it's going to be Severance season 2.
So everything you told me when you were like, it's going to be Strange New Worlds, and then I was like, are you sure? Because that's very niche. And you were like, no, it's what you want it to be. So you have changed your mind.
Yeah, I think Severance is pretty niche, too. Maybe not as niche as...
Okay, Star Trek is a whole fandom. That's a niche. Bridgerton is a fandom. Severance is just a show they created that anybody could watch. Which, not that anybody could watch Star Trek. That's not what I'm saying.
Anybody can watch Star Trek. You're all welcome. Come on in. Come
like
on in from the rain and the snow and join us in Star Trek land.
So you then disagree with me, where I say it's hard for me to give Severance based off of one season, because I believe when we did have this conversation originally, you weren't sure to give it to The Bear yet, because we had only had one season.
Yes.
We had not seen the second season yet, but you have that much confidence in Severance
based
on one season that you didn't have on The Bear?
Yeah, I think that The Bear was much more of a self-contained story in season 1 than Severance. Severance left several they very clearly had intent to make a second season.
You could have not had a season 2 of The Bear, and it would have been a satisfying conclusion.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying
and
there.
so they closed that out. The whole closing out of the season was completely different. And it's a risk, yeah, certainly. I mean, I didn't name it my best thing going for a reason. And the reason, we didn't come to conflict. We didn't butt heads about it and decide different shows were our best thing going. I left it down a peg intentionally because it is only one season, and I don't know how season 2 is going to go.
Do you think the weekly release will, imagine some of those episodes that we left off on if we had to wait a week? That would have driven me crazy.
I think that now that I'm into the show, I've seen the entirety of season 1, yeah. I'm invested. Unless season 2 is absolutely terrible, it's not going to be a problem. I think if I had to watch season 1 the first time weekly release,
because it really got good about episode 4.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit of a grind at the beginning. So, and that's a criticism, of the show. So I've got Severance there at my number 2 and Strange New Worlds at my number 3.
Do you have anything?
They were very, very close.
Yeah,
but
so close you flipped it on me.
So close I flipped it on you.
Do you have anything in your 4th slot? See, it's hard for me to think of shows that are even still on. There's a lot of shows that I like, that I enjoy. Ghost, What We Do in the Shadows, which that'll be ending soon.
Special Forces.
Oh, a reality show.
Special Forces, the reality show, is in my 4th spot.
I think we are.
I'm pretty sure they're doing a season 3. Yeah,
because one of the Bachelorettes was gone for a really long time, mysteriously, and we all assumed that she was.
Yeah, I bet we'll get it this fall.
We think she was either filming Special Forces or Traitors, that other reality show. That's one while I like Special Forces, I guess I for once over you and being a lot more picky about what I'm gonna name as like my favorite best show going. Like I'm being a lot more like selective about it because I would never even think, even though I like Special Forces, to put it in that section. Like I'm even having trouble because of the glacial pace, like I said, putting Strange New Worlds there. I don't know. Again, I just want to say, like, my two big shows I really liked more than anything are gone. And I feel like all my shows are ending. Like, what's going to happen when The Boys finally ends? What's going to come in? Is Severance that show that's going to overtake it?
I think for me, the way I gauge, like, if you sat down and you asked me, what are the best TV shows that you've watched in the last 5 years? Or what is your current best thing going? Those are two completely separate conversations. Yeah. Because I would say stuff like Succession.
Yeah, Succession would have been my
Ted
number
Lasso,
one.
right?
Yeah.
But right now, in the moment, I actually am I'm really looking forward to another season of Special Forces because I like that show. Yeah. I think it's a really fun thing to do. I would never call it the best TV show.
Yeah.
But that's not what this conversation is.
Okay, then I'm going to throw it out there then, especially if they get Steven, the Pommel Horse guy. Dancing with the Stars, I always love to watch it. So by your logic, Dancing with the Stars would be one of my best because I always look forward to it every year.
It's on your list.
It's fun. It's relaxing. It's not the smartest show. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously.
I think you're taking it way too seriously.
Like,
We're not naming the best show of 2024 or something.
I do think lot of my favorite shows, though, are either ending or I'm just having to wait forever for them.
Sure.
So it's really difficult. Like, I like The Summer I Turned Pretty, but I didn't get it this summer. I have to wait. And again, that's the gamble these streaming things take. Like if I can't really think of like a show like that I'm super duper excited about to come back in the fall. Can you? Like I can't.
No, the fall. No, the next.
Other than Dancing with the Stars.
The next show that I know I'm excited for coming is Severance season 2 in January.
Well, you are excited for Emily in Paris.
Yeah, but like I'm not thinking about Emily in Paris. No. So, all right, folks. Well, we really appreciate you tuning into the episode today. We're going to have another supercut coming up next Tuesday because we are going to go out of town and celebrate our 17th wedding anniversary.
We're old.
That us rat people have been together and hanging out. And we will see you after that. And at that point, we will have been into some shows like Umbrella Academy, Emily in Paris. We've been
apparently that 90s show.
Apparently that 90s
show.
Part
2's no longer coming in October. It's coming in August, right?
Yeah.
Love that.
We've watched a little bit
for all two of you that like that show.
Yeah, we've watched a little bit of Vice Principals already, but we're going to hold back on talking about that until we get through the first season. We are continuing the New Girl rewatch, so we'll have all of that stuff for you late August.
Should we do, instead of just a Vice Principals episode, should we just do it the Walter Goggins? Am I saying his name right?
Walton Goggins watch?
Walton. I always say Walter, so it's Walton.
Walton, yes.
We're, as you guys know, we're bad with names. So on that note, have a good one. Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at TheRealHoboDan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.